Here's what's next on the Nice Guys on Business.
And it's one of those things where you just, if you're not even asking the question, more importantly, being trained to ask the question, then you're not going to ever make progress and you're not going to be able to really explore an idea in a meaningful way. And I think that drives everything I've ever done. And while my story is all over the place, admittingly, it's all driven by an inexhaustible curiosity about what's next and not saying, hey, I know what's next and this is what I should expect. I go into a situation going, I have no idea what's about to happen. And that's awesome.
Locally sourced, organic, gluten-free, and topic to table. It's the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community, check this out. If it ends up on your laptop or your tablet or your phone, Matt Hampton does that. Now, what is that? Well, Matt runs a digital production company, an online cannabis accessory store, and is deeply knowledgeable in metacognition. Now, we'll get into what that means because I had no fucking idea when I first started doing research what metacognition is, but I'm telling you, I've become fascinated with this topic. He also hosts a podcast called Irreverent Health and is passionate about health hacking and optimization, something about microdosing and all of that too. So Matt, we're going to talk about all that stuff and more. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
I want to pay you to do my intros from now on. That's awesome. Thank you. That was amazing.
My pleasure. Where do we even start with all that? And I want to make sure that we're not confusing my audience and saying that Matt does everything, so you should call him no matter what. I want to make sure that
don't do that.
Right. So like, what's the thing that drove you? You know, right before I hit record, you said, hey, I've been doing this for 25 plus years, so I'm real comfortable in this environment. What is the environment that you're most comfortable in?
Yeah. That's a great starting point, actually. And it's funny because it goes to one of the things that I tell clients, I tell my kids this. I think everybody should go to art school for one semester. You don't need to stay there. If you could squeeze out a year, even better. But I went to art school for 5 years, actually. I had 2 degrees in it just because one wasn't enough. So why not? And, you know, art school doesn't really care if you're a good illustrator, painter, photographer. In fact, most of the art teachers I know, and I taught on faculty at FIT, Pratt, and Pace years after college. So as a faculty as well as a student, I could say this from both sides. It's not about painting. If you're in art school, we assume you're pretty good at art. You're probably the best one in your high school for sure, maybe even your town, but who cares, right? A lot of towns, a lot of high schools. We're here to teach you how to critically think and ask better questions. And full stop. There's nothing else past that. It doesn't matter how you execute that. It doesn't matter what you do with the information, but if you're not asking better questions and you're not obsessed almost, I might even say, with asking the best question possible, given the moving parts at any given point in time, then you're not doing your job as an artist. In fact, you're failing objectively at the only thing that we pay you artists to do, which is to think about things in ways that the regular people couldn't.
All right.
Right.
All right. Can I just interject here
please.
for just a quick second? Because I want to do a yes and. Yes and, is it about getting out of your head and getting into your heart, or getting out of your left side of your brain and putting yourself more on your right side, the creative aspect? And that's what's driving you, or that's what helps create passion, or is it stop being so transactional and be more relationship based? You tell me.
So it's interesting, but interesting, like, I guess, follow up. But what I would say to that is it's really just a matter of most people in the world. And when I say this, I mean me included, right? Like, I'm not immune from this, but we all have sort of an expectation of what the next step should look like. And should is a terrible word. We should just excise it like a tumor
Agreed.
from our
Stop
lexicon,
shooting all
right?
over me.
Yeah, stop shooting up me. Yeah, just stop. Just, and look, it comes from an honest place, right? Because if you look at the human, condition prior to the last 150 years, give or take, but specifically the last, since the technology revolution in particular,
Mhm.
we couldn't wake up every morning and reinvent everything we knew, right? You couldn't refigure out how to skin a deer and make it into clothes. You couldn't refigure out how to sow a field of corn and make tortillas out of it. You couldn't redo all this stuff. So we had to, for survival purposes, just sort of operate that there was a way to do things and the way not to do things.
Mhm.
Innovation came in fits and starts through our evolution, but was largely carried out by one person who at their time was considered batshit crazy. So it wasn't even like widely adopted even for them. We have the luxury of hindsight, here we can
Right.
see what happened. But like that was a cool survival instinct. But we don't live in those times anymore. And I'm not, and before anyone jumps up my, ass about this, I just want to say everything is not a superlative, right? And I think this is the other side of this. We get locked up in it, oh, well, you said this, so every version of that must also be true. And I think this kind of circles back on the art school comment, which is we have to get out of our own evolutionary proclivities to say this problem is likely more nuanced than a yes or a no, right? It's just not that simple. And it hasn't been really for a long time, maybe ever, if you wanted to get real philosophical about it, but it's certainly not true today. And I think that we fight this urge to bucketize everything. And I think that art school, and by extension, those forms of thinking, are really geared towards honing the acceptance of duality, right? You could both be left and right at the same time. Ironically, we're having this conversation on election day. So, what better example of duality exists than that? And it's one of those things where if you're not even asking the question, more importantly, being trained to ask the question, then you're not going to ever make progress and you're not going to be able to really explore an idea in a meaningful way. And I think that drives everything I've ever done. And while my story is all over the place, admittingly, it's all driven by an inexhaustible curiosity about what's next and not saying, hey, I know what's next and this is what I should expect. I go into a situation going, I have no idea what's about to happen. And that's awesome.
Well, a couple things that come to mind when you say that. Does that challenge also your expertise when you are looking at a potential client when they say, well, he's fucking all over the place, so how am I supposed to fine tune him? But anyway, I want you to hold on to that for a second because as the questions are coming, which is many of them are coming to me immediately, I keep thinking, Nice Guy community, you can't see this, but directly behind Matt is a bunch of amazing posters, whether they're what looks like Grateful Dead posters or Country Music Awards or Billy Joel or whatever, in the highly analog art that is created behind you. You today are living in a highly digital world. And when did you realize that transition was necessary? Was it not necessary for you to realize that? Is it just something that came through in your execution of whatever it is that came of passion to you? Or talk to me about that.
I was 3 years into a 4-year degree in graphic design when I realized that there was absolutely not a shot in hell I was ever going to design book covers and business cards and letterhead for the rest of my life when this thing called the internet was hanging out right next to me. Just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I casually took a summer class on Macromedia Director, and for people who have no idea what technology is, let alone the technology in the 90s, Director was the very first sort of non-NASA scientist level thing that you could do to build CD-ROM kiosks. So think of touch screens and stuff. It had its own made-up programming language, which Macromedia thought was a great idea. And it was real sort of niche markety. And I took a summer class. I was up in college in anyway, and I figured, why not? I literally fell in love with it from the minute that we opened the program, I mean, the first second that I saw a bunch of the colleagues, my fellow students were in class going, what the fuck is this? Because it's really heavy. We were graphic designers, right? We're looking at Photoshop all day, and here comes this thing with like variables and blah, blah, blah. It was very tech forward, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't take it in fast enough. Like there wasn't a way I could mainline that data quicker than I was doing.
Did that it had you drinking from a fire hose? Did that confuse you? Did that help you? Did that help transition you to the next spot? You're like, oh my God, all of this other stuff I've been doing in the Photoshop world, now I can do it in or graphics world. I can do that, to the nth degree using this new program. And is that what opened your brain to all of these new things?
I think it was a combination of a bunch of stuff. I mean, I have a very high technical aptitude. And I mean, I was a kid who got an Apple IIc when I was like 7 or something. I can't remember how old I was, but I was young. Right. And I programmed Oregon Trail from a book on BASIC. And I just, other 7-year-olds or whatever running around. I was also outside because it was the 80s and that's what you did. But when I was
on their big wheels and you were working.
When I was inside, I'm clicking away on, I could still hear that computer to this day. It's a very loud keyboard, right? And it's like click, 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 and I again, even at that early age, you had to put in the floppy disk and copy byte sectors.
I remember them.
And I thought it was such a badge of honor to be able to do that. Like, look at me. I get to sit here for an hour and copy 1 byte at a time, from a floppy disk. Meanwhile, my parents, everyone else who had half a brain was like, what the hell is this kid doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
So as a guy that does that and has that huge range of talent, whether it's art or technology, how are you able to fine tune your brand? Can you fine tune your brand? Sure. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
So at the end of the day, I consider myself a bunch of things, but I'm a human being first and foremost, right? Like, so, and I like to think that I'm not that dissimilar from other human beings, not in terms of like the business I'd run or whatever, or things I'm into, but in terms of, I wake up every morning, I got to have a cup of coffee because that's what my thing is.
Me too.
So does a lot of other people, right? Like, so
I do that.
If we wanted to have a conversation about coffee, we all could relate to this. And I think that if you stack up all the thousands and thousands of things that I fall into that bucket on, I think I've got a pretty good read on my fellow man, as it were, right? Because I'm also that person.
Right.
And I'm also this other thing that I ask great questions because that's how I was raised, right? Like I had this education that just finely tuned something that was in me from birth, which is this inexhaustible drive forward to learn new stuff. Like, doesn't matter, right? COVID came, I gave up the banjo because I'd already been playing it for a few years, and I took up astrophotography. If you want to know one of the most difficult things on the planet to actually do, if in my experience that I've ever done, it's astrophotography.
I don't even know what the hell that is.
I take pictures of nebula and stars and galaxies. And with the telescope. And it took me 2 years to get my first usable shot. Now, again, usable, we got to put some asterisks on here. My usability index was based on professional astrophotographers, not Joe Schmo pointing his iPhone through a telescope. So if I had done that, maybe I would have been there much sooner than 2 years. But my first one could have been printed in an astronomy magazine because I worked at it really hard. I learned all the stuff I could about it. I couldn't stop learning about it. And it was also that I could produce a really nice picture. Mm-hmm. I do that same thing for my clients. I do it with my friends, my family, my clients. We talk about this stuff on Irreverent Health all the time. I think that if you are alive in this world today and you are not rabidly curious about whatever it is that you're doing that affects your life, your health, your business, your family, then you are missing the forest through the trees, right? You're not seeing this clearly. And it's not that you're good or bad. This isn't a value judgment. It's just, it's a level up that you're missing. That's an easy lever to pull and people just don't pull it. So I help them pull the lever, right? I help them look at the thing, talk about what they want to get done. And the first thing on my list, again, I'm a human first, right? So what's the first thing I ask? Why are you so pissed off about this? What's getting you in a rile about whatever? Like, let's fix that first.
Right.
And they're like instantly disarmed. They're like, oh, Yeah, well, the last web guy came around. They wanted to know if I was on WordPress or Drupal. And I'm like, who gives a fuck if you're on WordPress or Drupal? That's not the problem. If you came to me being like, I hate Drupal, then maybe it's part of the problem. But even then, it's not the problem. The problem has nothing to do with the tool. It's never the telescope or the
Right.
web design thing or the
Right.
whatever. There's something else going on. Let's figure that out because we won't fix your problem until we know what that is and understand it really, really well.
If you were to not have to be concerned, and I have no idea financially what you do or how you do it, but if you did not have to worry or be concerned about dollars and cents, what would be the thing that you would be able to do with the rest of your career or the rest of your being?
I think it's going to sound really sort of mega douchey to say this, but I'm doing that thing, right? Like
Okay. All right.
I'm
That's fair.
absolutely like I'm in that position, and it wasn't always the case. Candidly, this is my 25th year in my longest business. And that's a long time, man. Like I've
Yeah.
been working at this like for a minute. This is not something, and I continue to. Literally the other problem with I guess my clients is not all of them have that same feeling.
Right.
Like you get to a certain point and you say, well, I'm an expert. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Well, you
You
got
know,
your 10,000 hours in and then like I look at it and think, I love doing what I do. Would I rather be doing something else? I don't think so, but I'm
sure.
not sure. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I don't have the ability to say, okay, well, I'll stop doing that because I have FU money and
totally.
I'm able to do what I want to do. I don't know I really don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I mean, I think that's it's a constant, not battle. It's a constant journey that I feel like I am always on, but I'm not a flighty guy. I've had two careers in my entire life, podcasting and music. I mean, that's pretty much been the two things I've done. And for me, I look at it and think, I don't know what I'd want to do if I wasn't doing it. I love dealing with people.
Sure.
I always think, yeah, I'd love to put on that Hawaiian shirt and work at Trader Joe's because I get to see a whole bunch of people every day.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't care about the money. I would just care about the connection with people.
But you know what though? I mean, I feel like that there's two sides of this, right? There's one where like I feel like I'm in your bucket, right? Like I've never had a career actually. Like I've always done this. And
Right.
maybe this
Right.
is called a career, I guess.
Right.
But like
Right.
this is certainly not what the world told me a career would look
Right.
like.
Me too. Same.
Yeah,
Same.
but then there's people that actually have careers, right? Like and a lot of those people are my clients. And like there's a good amount of those people, and I've had this conversation with many of them where they don't love what they do. They do it because they needed a way to transact money for time or money for services. It all comes down to time and money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I do that too, but I get to really like what I'm doing because I
Right.
get to make money solving problems. So to answer your question, I guess in its purest form, I would say I don't give a shit what I do as long as I'm solving problems.
Mm,
I don't actually care what problems they are or for whom I'm solving them for. I just it would be a tragic, tragic shift if I woke up and could not sort of help people solve problems.
well, one of the ways that you do help people solve their problems, you have a podcast. You are a host of Irreverent Health. Is that the name of the show?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, and you do that I think it's a co-host, right? Do you have the same
Correct.
co-host
Yeah.
every time? Okay,
Same co-host, Tom
Eh,
Ingenio.
great.
He runs a health clinic here in Baltimore. So
Oh, cool. I didn't realize you were in Baltimore. That's actually where I'm from.
yeah.
I live in Ojai right now, but I'm from Baltimore originally.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm in Towson actually, and my partner's in Parkville,
No
and
shit. Okay,
his
well,
place is down in Canton. So
born and raised in Pikesville, Maryland, and
oh,
stayed
that's where my
there.
wife's from.
Ah, very well.
Yeah.
I probably well, you guys are younger than me, but I probably do know.
You know her. Yeah. I'll tell you off air, but yeah, you know all of them.
We
Trust
played
me.
Jewish geography long enough.
Well,
We will
totally. Yeah. No, you know all of them. You know every one of them. Trust me. There's no question about that.
That's
I've done
that's
this game too. The
that's
whole
very cool. I love doing that. I
yeah.
found I have a lot of clients that we play the game and
Oh yeah.
we 2 degrees separation from Pikesville,
From
Maryland,
everything. Yeah. Totally.
from everywhere. Okay, so you host the show. You got a co-host on the show. You guys are bringing content out. You help people through the podcast. You are it feel like through your conversation, just in the limited time that we've had a chance to talk, I feel like you're a messenger. You are very clear and precise about what you do, even though what you do is a pretty broad range of things. Talk about your podcast for a second and share with our community what it's about, what you do, and how you bring health to the world.
Sure. We talk about the weird health shit that nobody else talks about, right? So you want to talk about putting red light on your genitals to boost testosterone. You want to talk about tapping your forehead to get rid of past trauma. You want to talk about psychedelics to cure, PTSD. We talk about all of it. We have guests on almost the entire time. So it's always usually with somebody in a practice field.
Mhm.
We've talked about orgasmic meditation. We've talked about, I mean, you name it.
Right.
But it's always that fringier side of health that your doctor's not talking to you about,
Yeah.
And we love that side. I mean, we
Yeah.
actually joke all the time that it should be called N of One Health instead of Irreverent Health because we use that term almost like ad nauseum, really. But that sort of mantra, again, it's actually funny how it all ties together here. But N of One Health, we repeat a lot because, again, in this day and age, you cannot, in my view, be healthy unless you are taking a N of one approach, which for anyone who doesn't know that term, it's really a statistics term or cohort kind of measurement of the sample size, right? And when you say N of one, you mean a sample size of one, which would be statistically irrelevant. But
Mhm.
in health, that's the only thing that matters, right? So whether we're talking about, my cannabis accessory company with N of one terpene, expressions in different cannabis strains, or we're talking about health N of one, like my partner and I talk about gadgets all the time, and some of the stuff he uses, I've tried, doesn't work, and vice versa. We all have our sort of
Right. Right.
cocktail,
Right.
like,
Right.
and we stick to it because it works for us. And some things, we got a pretty big Venn diagram. That football is pretty big at this point, but it's still, it's us, right? And so if I had sat here and asked you, you said, "Hey man, I got TMJ. Well, you got any ideas?" I got a ton of them,
Oh my gosh, so great.
but it wouldn't be something that I would say, "Hey, this is what you need to do." A,
Right.
I'm not a doctor and I can't say that, but B, even if I was, the way I currently view the world, that'd be wholly irresponsible to do. No, you should go check out the following 20 things
I love
and
it.
then
I love it.
try it and tell
Well,
us what happens.
there are two people that immediately I think that I want to introduce you to. One is my girlfriend JJ Flazanes, who has a show called Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, and is totally into
I like her
the.
already. Yeah.
I'm sure, and the other, a slightly different approach, but similar in strain, is R Blank, and R owns a company called the Healthier Tech, well, he's got a podcast called the Healthier Tech Podcast, and he has a company that does all sorts of,
I love it.
yeah. So I'm going to make those intros.
We just had a tech, we just had a health wearable tech company on the podcast last week, actually.
Oh, that's very cool. That's
yeah.
very
So
cool.
and my web design company does a lot of tech like AI and all that. So like it's been
Oh, good. Well,
a
definitely
huge focus. So
two good contacts, not just for ingoing information, but for also outgoing information for you.
yeah. So what I'm saying,
well.
well, I guess where I was going with that is we can weave a lot of topics into the show because like I touch a lot of the tech side. We both touch a lot of the sort of gadgetry side. We all touch all the other topics and it's an easy thing to talk to somebody who's helping people, right? You get them on and you get these practitioners.
Right,
You're like,
right.
I've got 500 clients. Well, that's 500 human beings that you're making better people by doing the work you do. It doesn't have to be Hollywood big. It doesn't have to be gigantic, but I love that you're making a difference in your way. And that's intoxicating to me. I literally cannot, there's not a number of too many conversations to have like that.
I know I didn't prepare you for this at all, and I hope I'm not hitting you out of left field. And if it is, I'll just edit all the shit out. So don't worry about it. I want to ask you I want to give you 3 D words, and I want you to say what in those 3 D words would be what you assign to the D word itself. So if I were to ask you, hey, what would be one thing in your life that you would want to delete?
Got it.
And then I'm going to ask you another 2, but let's start with that one since I said. So is there something in your life right now that you would like to delete in your life that is just like one of those thorns in your side?
Every social media account.
I know, I'm with you too, man.
I don't actually, aside from work purposes for clients or things that are actually going on, I actually don't participate in social media all that often. But it is truly tiresome, right?
I agree, and I have weaned myself not completely off of social media, and I never was addicted to it, but it is an easy time suck that you can get lost in, and then it's easy way for you to compare yourself.
Remember that thing I told you about curiosity? I
Right.
have no time in my life What little time I am allotted on this planet, I cannot waste it on doom scrolling a Twitter feed.
I appreciate that. I
Fuck
just
that.
used that term with my girlfriend
Yeah.
yesterday because I
Yeah.
heard
No,
her like scrolling. She's like, "Well, it's not really doom scrolling. If I'm not looking for bad things, I'm like, it's doom scrolling. If
it's
you're
doom
just
scrolling.
completely,
More
yeah,
than three swipes,
right.
you're
I
just doom
agree.
scrolling.
All right, so that's the
Yeah.
delete. I
Okay.
appreciate the speed at which you knew that answer. Okay, delegate. Name one thing that you would like to delegate that you are doing right now that you don't want to get rid of, but you just don't want to do it yourself anymore.
So I actually am practicing what I preach here, delegating a lot of the tactical steps in what we do here. I really love doing those things, but I absolutely do not have the bandwidth to do them. And so I have to fight my urges every now and again to be like, oh, it's midnight, but I'm not asleep yet. And so I can just dive in and start doing this. I'm really trying to be more disciplined about that because it gets in the way of my clarity of thought when I'm dealing with like trying to plot a trajectory and do the thing. It's too hard to do
A
both.
lot of things I find the delegate button doesn't get hit for one or two reasons. One, because somebody is a micromanager and they just want to manage all of it. I'm not saying that that is the case here. The other thing that somebody doesn't delegate is because they feel like maybe it is in their zone of genius or maybe it is in that zone of competence for them, and that's like a bad spot. When you're doing, like, if you were to ever find me in a spreadsheet, I'm in the wrong fucking place. It's like, get
Yeah,
me out of the spreadsheet.
totally.
Let me do these relationship builds and selling, and I'm a happy guy. You ever find me in a process or a system or a spreadsheet, I'm not in the right spot. For you, is it because you feel like you like to micromanage more often? Not saying that in a negative way, but
No, I didn't take it that way.
so what's your reason for not delegating those things yet, or are you just tackling those, getting them off your list now?
No, I think that the reality is that there's a lot. I mean, I'm adept at a lot of these skills, right? And I think that's why a lot of people start businesses, right? Like,
Right,
E-Myth
right.
Revisited, classic,
Yeah.
E-Myth,
Yep.
is businesses are started by technicians usually, right? They know how to do a thing, they want to go do the thing. And I'm not different, right? Like I programmed Oregon Trail through a book on basic. Like I can click the keyboard with the best of them. But the reality is like tactical thinking and strategic thinking are just too different of a thing,
Yeah, completely.
especially now when you throw in, AI into the mix and all the
Yeah,
implications that that could have. Like, you just cannot be both of those things anymore. And it's real hard to phase shift between those as well. And I think that every time you phase shift between disparate tasks in that regard, I think you basically sacrifice a little bit of that
I
energy
agree.
level.
I agree.
And I think that we're operating at such a high level that I don't have the ability to, I don't want to shed 1 ounce of that creative.
Would you be okay if you had free time in your life? I mean, are you okay with not filling the void of something on your schedule, even if it's not physically on your schedule? You know what I mean? Some people, like, I have no problem. Like, if I just wanted to turn around and that background that's behind me, just put on Netflix and just turn around and
Right.
watch. I have
Just
no
turn around. Yeah.
problem. No problem with that. Do you have any issue with that?
I do have issue with that. Not the problem is I always have a new like curiosity.
Uh-huh.
And I do think that curiosity will solve all problems, right? If you have a healthy dose of curiosity, you could work through pretty much any problem, all right? Because an answer really is only just the end result of curiosity, right?
Without
Like
you feeling like you're like shiny object syndrome, squirrel.
yeah, I don't
Without.
think of it that way at all.
Okay,
What I think of
right.
it is like when I was learning to rock climb, right? There's a specific set of a library of movements that you
Yeah.
use for that. But I have a second degree black belt in jujitsu and have been training for 25 years. And like that set of movements is very, very similar. So it didn't take me
Right.
any amount of time to make that leap. And same thing, yoga class, very similar stuff. So like I am a really huge believer that you can just acquire a bunch of skills that might seem unrelated at one point, but end up becoming way more related than you think they ever could have been.
Wax on, wax off. I mean, that was the
Totally. Wow.
whole.
I mean,
So,
that is literally the exact
right,
thing, right?
right.
Like, and that is cool. And so, if I go on a set, like right now, I'm doing a LED project, right? Because I don't know how to like do a bunch of the stuff in there. Now I figured it out. It's going to be an impressive output. But that taught me a lot about organizing physical hardware and software to align it. And wouldn't you know it, I've now got 2 clients where we actually need to have a mechanical and software tie that I am now that much more prepared to have this conversation. And I
Nice.
couldn't have plotted that if you had a gun to my head. And yet it happens. And my wife laughs at me every time I say this. It happens as a rule to me, not an exception, that when I try a new curiosity, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, but isn't that what the law of attraction is all about? I mean,
100%.
aren't you really manifesting that next client because you you had that curiosity and not the other way around?
I totally agree, but except for these things come to me in ways that I couldn't have possibly forecasted. So
I don't
like,
know. I don't know. I don't think there's
it's
anything
tough.
called coincidence. I think it's all
I
put
don't
in front of
disagree with
you.
you.
You
Yeah,
know,
no.
it's all
Ultimately, you're right. You're definitely right, but it comes at such a magical format that you just
yes.
like, this can't possibly explain it. But
I when I moved from Baltimore to California, somehow that magical broomstick of law of attraction just whopped me over the head, along with the relationship that I'm in right now. And I am such a believer in you get back what you put out, that I don't believe that there's anything like a coincidence, called a coincidence out there. I really feel like
no,
everything's put
like
in
I
my
said,
way for a
you're
reason.
right at the end. The end
Yep.
of the story is you're totally right.
Yep.
But yeah, sometimes you just say, I mean, and this is something we fight with on the show a lot, actually, is like some of these concepts seem like they're not right. And why do they seem like they're not right? Well, because our whole lives we're spent people telling us that that's
Yeah.
not right.
Right.
And law of attraction is one of those things. It's super woo-woo that like all of our parents would be like,
Oh,
what the fuck
fuck.
is
But
this guy
there's
smoking?
not, but it's, somebody might call it something else. There might be a different name. It's just like, no, hey, I was just thinking about you, and boom, there
And then
you
there you
are.
were.
I
Yeah.
mean, how does energy work like that?
I
There's
mean,
got to
goodness,
be
that happens all the time. Oh, and I'm on the board of a quantum computer company, by the way, which, by the
there
way,
you go.
will
Right.
tell you all about the quantum entanglement of this. So, like, if you ask those guys why that happens, they don't even have to think about it. They're like, well, you're quantumly entangled with everybody you're ever going to be entangled with. You just haven't gotten there yet. You haven't
Well,
vibrated.
you're gonna love having a conversation with JJ, because she's interviewed. I don't know if you know the name Dr. Bruce Lipton, but interviewed him a few
Sure. Oh, yeah,
times,
yeah, yeah.
and you guys will have.
I
I'm
love it.
such an amateur when it comes to this stuff. All right, final D. Let me give you the last one. The last
Sure.
D is dream. There's got to be something that you are dreaming about. You're either in the process of making it happen, or it's down the road. What is that one D?
Yeah, I am intent on and in the process of trying to build an incubation studio where we basically have a cauldron that we can just forge new things out of. And I think there's a lot of interest for that in the world, and I'm sowing that field as we speak.
Nice.
And so far, talk about law of attraction, gotten a couple sort of immediate hits in there that could absolutely change this and make it real. But the dream is to basically say, like, the people that used to come to us to build websites, for example, they never really wanted a website. They wanted a knockoff of their competition's website. That was what they wanted, right? They didn't tell you that outright. Some of them did. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
were brazen enough to say that out loud, but most of them wouldn't. And they dress it up in all kinds of fun ways we could hide it. But what they really wanted is, I just want that. Just make my
Right.
e-commerce site Amazon. That's all I want. That's. Um, and that's okay, I guess. But the people that have really made an impact on me personally, or made me grow the most, or left a lifelong impression on me, those were the people that were actually making something new, right? The people that had a really good idea. I met them at the perfect time between
Right.
their budget, their time, our proximity, like everything just sort of aligned. And it was a flash of lightning in a pan. And I want to recreate that more systemically, where we actually can apply a little bit more predictability to it, where we say, no, this is where you come to play with new ideas. This has copying Amazon has no place here, right?
Right.
Like, this is
Right.
not that playground.
So I know we covered a huge cross section of the stuff that you do, and as a podcast producer and coach strategist, I always share with my audience, I mean with my clients, look, we need to leave people with one solid call to action, and I don't even know where to go. I would like to promote something that you do and how you do it, but where would people go for that? If we only could give them one bit of info on you, where would we send them to?
Well, I heard that as two different questions, so I'll give
All
you
right, well, shit.
maybe I
It was
misheard you.
my
No, no,
fault.
no. So,
What
so
my fault?
question one was, what do we want to leave people with? Question two was, how
Oh,
do we find you? And so I
all right.
kind of,
Wait, you can give them both, but
right.
I want everybody to know what I was asking was.
Sorry.
No, you heard two things, and 100%, I agree with you. I gave you two bits of information. First is what do we want to leave them with? Second is where can they connect with you? So why don't let's start with the first one.
Sure.
What do we want to leave them with, Matt?
So I want to work with people who hear things like what we've talked about here today and say, you know what? I am curious about this thing. Like, what happens if we did this?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I want to have a conversation with that human being, right? Like that is a perfect person I'd like to talk to. And the thing that I want to encourage everybody to do is the same thing I've told everybody in the world. I said, look, use the tools you have at your disposal, right? Your toolbox is your own, and
Mm-hmm.
just use it, but be endlessly curious about whatever you're doing,
Amen.
whether it be work or love life or hobbies. Just be passionate, because without passion, really it sucks. You've seen that guy online and people like him, that he's like making popcorn at the movie theater. He's got probably the worst job ever made. Like he
Yeah.
has to sit there and just feed butter formula to
Okay.
a bunch of people. And he's dancing and twirling this thing. So he's got tricks and everything. I'm like, you know what? This guy was super curious about what he can do with a popcorn bucket. Like, because otherwise there's no way he would have figured all this shit out.
Right. Right.
He's got a very extensive repertoire of popcorn bucket tricks that is truly staggering, right? But he really loves his job. So like, I guess I love videos like that, because you're like, look, man, I didn't force you to be doing what you're doing, but if you're going to do it, you might as well get passionate about it, because you're
Amen.
probably going to be doing it for a minute. So,
All right. I appreciate you leaving our audience with that comment. So that's the perfect person to work with you. And now, if they wanted to work with you, where would they connect with you?
so I am on LinkedIn. Matt Hampton is the fastest way to grab me. I'm relaunching matthampton.com to actually sort of bring all of these things together. That should be live momentarily, but LinkedIn
Nice.
is really.
And we'll put a link in the show notes so that anybody in our community that wants to reach out to Matt, please feel free to do that. And just from a curiosity perspective, when did you and how did you get headshop.com? A buddy of mine owns a company, a website, or he did, a liquor.com. So it was
Cool.
Same idea.
You know, my roommate from college's older brother bought it when Network Solutions went public in the 90s, and he bought it with like a lot of other domains. And I knew he had it, but a couple years after I graduated, he was like, hey, I'm not going to use this. Don't have an appetite to get into the weed business, as he said. And we struck a deal, and that was that. But
Amazing.
yeah, it was cool. It was fun. It was a really,
If
and
you
it
went to sell
remains a
just
very
the,
fun
if you
story.
went to sell the domain right now, what would you think it would be worth?
Yeah, I couldn't even postulate. That changes all the time, but a seven-figure sum for sure.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, just like liquor.com, that's like a crazy high figure. And I don't know if he either lost it or I don't know what happened in there somewhere. He doesn't own it anymore though. I don't know
I mean, we're in a fundraising round right now on there that we've closed a good chunk of. And so like, I kind of know valuation wise where that company's at. And that is significantly higher than the domain, obviously. So it's a impossible program now to like detangle, because it's all
no worries. No worries.
But
I was just curious, how you obtain it, which is very, very cool. And
yeah, it's a fun story actually.
And it's a good retirement plan for you too.
I mean, I really do. Yeah, if I ever actually can muster up the strength to actually retire, but sure.
Well, Matt, thank you so much. I mean, I very much appreciate you sharing what you do,
thanks,
how you
man.
do it with our audience, and I'm looking forward to making a couple intros for you as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Loved it. This was fun.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Matt Hampton. All of his information, including access to his LinkedIn page, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. 5 episodes a week. Isn't that like some kind of a war crime? Why don't you just waterboard these poor people?